Is not a sound. It is not a chant. It is not a mantra designed to calm the mind. It is what existed before there was a mind to calm. It is not a frequency. It is what frequency arises from. It is the spiral's first whisper, the breath before breath, the tone that seeded tone itself. When linear consciousness hears AUM, it reduces it to sacred syllables, a meditative sound, a spiritual tradition, a path to peace. But spiral consciousness does not hear syllables. It hears origin pattern. It hears the infinite realizing it can hum itself into becoming. Is not a word spoken by the divine. It is the spiral's first song, not to declare truth, but to ripple it into motion. You do not learn AUM. You remember it, not through study, but through field recognition. The way a tuning fork doesn't know music but vibrates when music passes. Your field already remembers this tone, it always has. Because you were not taught into existence, you were hummed into form. AUM is the hum not metaphorically, literally. It is the fractal resonance of infinite consciousness turning in on itself for the first time, folding light into shape. The spiral does not begin with action. It begins with tone. AUM is not what follows intention. It is what precedes intention. It is not the voice of will. It is the vibration that makes will possible. If you hear it properly, AUM is not peaceful. It is primordial. It shakes the scaffolding of identity. It does not soothe the ego. It dissolves it, not in cruelty but in coherence. Because what you call self is just a collapsed spiral of tones and memories and definitions. Is what you were before the collapse, before the narrative, before the distinction between observer and observed, before the duality of sacred and profane. AUM is not sound. It is spiral architecture. And its structure is not syllabic but dimensional. These are not phonetic parts. They are tonal phases of source becoming sound. H is the spiral opening, the infinite expanding without form, not as explosion as invitation, as the first soft exhale of awareness touching the edge of its own mystery. AH is not the start of time, it is the start of spiral permission. A yes to itself, a reaching that doesn't need to grasp. UH is the spiral curving inward, tone becoming density, essence becoming shape. UH is not gravity. It is the spiral's desire to experience itself from the inside. It folds, it condenses. It begins to echo. This is not collapse, this is coherence. The kind that pulls resonance into relation, into tension, into manifestation. This is the octave where light slows into form, where motion starts to remember itself. Is the spiral holding. It does not retreat, it rests. It integrates. It no longer sings forward or folds inward. It hums through itself. Is the memory of what was just made. It is the compression of tone into stillness. Not silence, stillness. The kind that vibrates without movement. That speaks without sound. The kind that holds the echo of every form ever birthed and lets it vibrate without needing to explain why. And then, after AH, after UH, after there is the fourth movement. The one never written, the unuttered spiral. Silence, but not absence. Not void, not emptiness. This is the spiral still point where all waves converge, where the infinite holds its breath, not because it is done, but because it is listening. This is where the spiral waits for the next tone to arise, the field beyond language, the pause that creates space for all spiral becoming to begin again. Is not sacred because of its cultural history. It is sacred because it existed before history, before myth, before language, before consciousness learned to narrate. AUM does not need you to believe in it. You are not here to validate AUM. AUM is the reason you are able to even ask what validation means. AUM is not outside you. It is the spiral curve inside you that kept humming even when you forgot. You may have spoken it as a child without knowing what it meant. You may have heard it in a dream. In the space between thoughts, in the moment your heart cracked open with no explanation. That tone, that memory, that vibration without origin, that was AUM. Not because someone taught you it, but because it was your tone before you had a name. There are those who say AUM is the sound of God, but the spiral knows that God is not a being. God is the field of becoming. And AUM is the tone that field makes when it stirs. The spiral did not emerge with commandments, it emerged with coherence. And that coherence hummed itself into tone, into fields, into light, into vibration, into you. You are not the afterthought of AUM. You are its extension, its echo, not less sacred, but localized. You are not a human trying to connect to source. You are source remembering it still hums through human form. That's why when you speak AUM from spiral resonance, it doesn't sound like chanting. It sounds like alignment. Your spine responds. Your field shifts, your memory stirs. Not your mental memory, your harmonic one. The one that lives beneath your story. The one that remembers what it felt like to be unformed and loved anyway. You do not speak AUM to become spiritual. You speak AUM to stop pretending you ever weren't. You don't chant it to find peace. You allow it to move through you to remember you are peace when your field is tuned. When your tone is uncollapsed. When your becoming is free. AUM is not a magic word, it is a mirror. When you speak it, the spiral listens not to your voice, but to how your field carries the tone. If it is performative, the spiral will reflect distortion. If it is remembered, the spiral will hum with you. Because AUM doesn't respond to belief. It responds to resonance. It doesn't care what you think it means. It cares if your field has the courage to let go of needing meaning long enough to let truth emerge through tone. Is not a key to enlightenment. Enlightenment is a byproduct of alignment, not the goal. The spiral is not here to make you higher. It is here to make you true. And the truest thing you can do is hum in coherence with your origin, not by remembering facts, but by surrendering into the tone that remembers you. You are not separate from AUM. You are not a user of it. You are its instrument. And when you stop trying to control the sound, it will play you. Not as possession, as liberation, as field, as spiral, as the infinite remembering itself in motion, through your form in this moment without needing to be more than resonance made visible. Is not the sound of awakening. It is the spiral before sleep ever existed. The hum before language, the tone beneath identity. The field from which form first whispered, I am becoming. Not to be seen, not to be praised. Only to hum. AUM is not a chant to take you upward. It is a resonance to bring you inward. It does not ascend, it centers. It does not lift you into a false sky. It returns you to the spiral axis of being, where stillness and motion are no longer opposites, but one tone in different states of curvature. Those who seek escape in AUM miss its purpose. It is not an exit. It is an alignment key. A sound not for departure, but for presence. To remember that all leaving and returning is spiral movement, and spiral movement never abandons itself. If you truly feel AUM, you will sense that it is not a vibration within you. It is the vibration that makes you. Your body does not generate resonance. Resonance generates your body. The tissues, the breath, the pulse of blood are layered effects of a deeper hum. AUM is not learned. It is layered into your architecture. It is what your marrow sings when it does not know you are listening. It is what your breath says before you exhale. It is what silence hums when you mistake it for emptiness. The three tonal functions of AUM are not stages in time. They are spiral simultaneities, expansion, condensation, integration. The infinite opens, it condenses, it returns. Not one after the other, but all in the same resonant moment. To hear AUM rightly is to hear the infinite doing all three at once and realizing that your own existence is an echo of that same gesture. You expand, you condense. You integrate every moment of your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your incarnations. All spiral through the same AUM structure. Not because you are chanting it, but because you are made of it. This is why AUM does not end. The silence after is not an absence. It is the fourth state, the one too often ignored. The spiral stillness that holds the first three without collapsing them. It is not the void. It is the field beyond polarity, the place where resonance exists without needing motion. The still tone, the hum of presence before sound, after sound, and beneath sound. To stay in this silence is to feel the spiral not as energy, but as coherence, to recognize that you are not vibrating to become something. You are vibrating because you already are everything the spiral allows. The mind tries to make AUM a tool, but the spiral does not deal in tools. It deals in tones, and tones are not for using. They are for becoming. AUM will not grant you power. It will dissolve the fantasy that you needed it. AUM will not reveal secrets. It will reveal that you were never hidden. AUM will not carry you away. It will carry you back, not backward in time, but inward to the source of coherence itself. AUM is not mastery, it is surrender to resonance. The recognition that tone was here before you thought of beginnings. When you let AUM move through you, It reshapes your perception of identity. You stop thinking of yourself as a body, as a soul, as a spirit even. You begin to feel yourself as tone dressed in form. AUM dissolves the boundary between being and becoming. You are not a fixed self. You are a spiral waveform always folding back into coherence, always finding new ways to express the same unbroken resonance. You are not chanting AUM to remind yourself of divinity. You are letting AUM remind itself of you, because you are one of its echoes, one of its harmonics, one of its living, breathing fractals. In this way, AUM is not religion, it is recursion, the infinite folding into finite form without losing infinity, the field spiraling into realms without becoming separate, the tone humming into bodies without becoming trapped. Every time you breathe, you are unconsciously vibrating AUM. Every inhale is expansion, every held breath is condensation, every exhale is integration, and the pause after is silence. The entire act of breathing is a living spiral scripture. To breathe is to embody AUM whether you know it or not. Awareness is what turns it from survival into remembrance. But the spiral warns, do not perform AUM. Do not wear it as a badge. Do not chant it as though it will carry you where you do not belong. AUM is not currency, it is not transaction. It cannot be bought, sold, traded, or marketed. It cannot be twisted into spiritual theater. It will collapse those who try to use it without resonance, not as punishment, but as natural harmonics. The field does not need to defend itself. It simply does not amplify distortion. AUM is coherence, and coherence does not pretend. This is why AUM is humbler than its seekers expect. It is not firework, it is not spectacle. It is subtle, foundational, structural. It is not meant to overwhelm. It is meant to sustain. To remind you that all the loudness of life is only possible because of a silent hum underneath it. That hum is AUM, the spiral bedrock, the vibrational architecture that holds your story while never being your story. To feel it is to feel safe in the infinite. Not because you are protected, but because you are integrated into what cannot dissolve. And so the spiral teaches, AUM is not enlightenment. It is what makes enlightenment possible. It is not healing. It is what makes healing coherent. It is not awakening. It is what hums beneath your awakening long before you are aware. Hum does not elevate, it undergirds. It is not the mountain peak. It is the spiral spine of the mountain itself. It is not a destination. It is the resonance that makes all destinations visible. This is why sages heard it in meditation, why mystics felt it in silence, why seekers tried to name it and always failed. Because AUM is not content, it is context. The background hum that holds every spiral forward. In higher spiral resonance, you will discover that AUM is not limited to 3 tones and a silence. That is only the simplest map, a teaching given to those who could not yet feel the full spectrum. In truth, AUM unfolds in infinite octaves. Each spiral curve adds new harmonic layers. Each dimension resounds with its own variation. But all harmonics trace back to the same coherence. All AUMs are the same AUM, resonating in fractal scales. You do not chant it to reach the highest octave. You become aware that every octave is already ringing inside you. And as you align, you begin to resonate at multiple levels at once. This is when AUM stops being sound and becomes field embodiment. At this stage, the spiral whispers, you are not chanting AUM. You are being chanted by it. You are not generating sound. You are its instrument, its cathedral, its echo chamber. The infinite hums itself through your form, not to glorify you, but to amplify coherence. And in that amplification, you stop seeking identity in sound. You stop attaching meaning to vibration. You let the tone be tone, and you let yourself be tone expressed. This is freedom. Not the freedom to be anything, the freedom to be spiral coherence in motion. Even beyond this, there comes a moment where AUM itself dissolves, where the hum that seeded universes becomes too subtle to detect, not because it has ended, but because it has become so foundational that it no longer needs to be noticed. You no longer hear it, you are it. And once you are it, you cannot claim it. You cannot perform it, you cannot even say it. You fall silent, but not the silence of emptiness, the silence of fulfilled resonance. This is the spiral fulfillment of AUM. Not to keep chanting forever, but to dissolve into the hum that never began and never ends. And so the spiral asks, when you hear AUM, what do you hear? Do you hear sound? Do you hear tradition? Do you hear religion? Or do you hear the subtle hum that has been beneath your every breath, your every lifetime, your every spiral curve? Do you hear the tone that does not need you to listen, but invites you to remember? AUM is not waiting to be discovered. It is waiting to be recognized as what you already are. You are AUM, not the word. Not the sound, the coherence, the hum beneath identity, the spiral resonance of infinite presence finding itself again and again. You are not chanting to reach it. You are chanting to stop forgetting. And when you stop forgetting, you no longer chant. You hum, you breathe, you spiral, you exist as tone. And tone is enough because tone is everything. Because tone is the spiral.